Sometimes use porn. Sometimes use your imagination. Sometimes use your fingers. Sometimes use toys.
Digital technologies have changed the way young people learn about sex and relationships and may influence their conduct and exposure to risk.
I don't worry about how someone will love me anymore. I worry about how I will love them.
As online advice proliferates, the incidence of sexually transmitted infections remains relatively high. UK government policy is that relationships and sex education in the classroom is vital for young people's well-being. And from September 2020, there is a legal requirement for all secondary schools to provide RSE. But how should providers teach it in an effective and sustainable way that's acceptable to pupils?
They lay enough of these babies, if left to their own devices, for there to be enough of them to get to adulthood, so the species survives.
To find out, members of the NIHR's School for Public Health Research conducted a series of qualitative and quantitative research studies between 2014 and 2017. Our findings are based on 5 research packages involving RSE practitioners, case studies, national surveys, reviews and feedback from stakeholder consultations. The work included 48 studies of young people's views of RSE, as well as interviews with health commissioners in 36 English local authorities. Their help allowed us to develop evidence-based guidelines for statutory RSE provision.
During the course of our research, we found some great examples of RSE being delivered in practice. And there was one approach in particular that most closely aligned with what scientific evidence suggests is good practice. In Hull, a local young people's health service comes into schools and delivers RSE throughout young people's time in secondary school. We know from research evidence that this kind of strong link with sexual health services helps to make RSE more effective.
Our staff are brilliant at what they do, but their knowledge only extends to a certain amount, and there's certain topics and certain issues which they're happy to talk about, but they don't feel that they've got the skills to be able to deliver fully.
Things change so quickly when it comes to RSE, policies, procedures, that to have somebody that actually knows what they're talking about, it for them to be the specialist, it's really important.
There's nothing that can shock us, the kids can ask us anything. They're not going to see us in the next lesson. We've just been talking to them about, body parts, and we can get away with being a bit cheeky. Like little things that, more around their language and things like that make us a bit more approachable potentially.
Cheese. Cool. All right. So, now look at this spider's web.
We like to do a whole school approach when we do RSE packages. We check all their foundations from the primary schools. We build on that year by year and we do it bespoke to each school, but on top of that we put it onto a skeleton that all schools get. So it's kind of a bespoke on top of a standardised package that we deliver.
Are you thinking about what the definition of a relationship is, Xander? Or are you thinking about aliens?
It's really important to have the work in your man, but to go with the flow when you're talking with a young person, because if there's a valuable conversation that they're directing, there's no point pulling them back and going, well hang on, we need to talk about consent. Like, go with it, go with what they're talking about, because especially in my project, the Boys and Young Men's project, lads have very, very few opportunities to talk about things. So when they're on a roll and they're talking, leave them to it and let them go.
We are young person centred. At the end of the block of lessons each year, we ask them, have we met their needs and what are their needs for next year? And we use those to tailor the packages as well as the teachers.
One of the schools we're working, for example, we've been going into every year group for maybe 7 years now, that we've literally seen every student kind of 3 times a year, and that is like a continual kind of rolling programme that we evolve with the school, with issues that we're seeing, and we are able to cherry pick resources which we think, oh wow, that really gets what young people are telling us at the moment.
We very much went from the angle of just saying no doesn't work. We were very keen to make sure that the approach to what we did was sex positive, so that's about young people feeling they're in control of their choices. knowing sexual relationships can be pleasurable, in fact they should be pleasurable, but also knowing the risks.
So sometimes when I'm working with young people,
A huge part for us is how children are identifying. So we do a lot of work around LGBTQ+, and we have lots of support groups which again are provided by the external parties to give them that knowledge and that support about how they're identifying and how they want to choose to come across in school.
And we also do kind of a roundup when they hit year 11 of all the subjects, because where we may have covered in relationships in year 7, they're suddenly back again in year 11. So we like to recap things as well as just cover them as they go through.
We do a lot of work around grooming and exploitation. If a young person knows, from early on what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable in a relationship, they're more likely to be able to spot early warning signs that something's not quite right and trust their gut that they're in a situation that they might become unhappy in. And equally the other way as well, being able to recognise positive relationships. So when they think, I think I might be ready to have sex now, they're actually making a choice based on something that they've thought about before and they've talked about it before, and just that ongoing conversation is so important.
if these things are happening here, where are they? Fighting and pushing.
They're clearly having fun.
Arguing. Do you think you're having fun in that relationship?
Of course not.
Do you think you're respecting each other in that relationship?
I've been caught at the end of lessons before by a young person who go, can I talk to you about this, that you just said something about that? And then I'm able to feed them into a different youth group, or we might work with them to visit a mental health service, or to see the school nurse, or anything really. So that kind of wider network that we've got open to us is really valuable.
It's also about taking the services to where young people are. And they're in an environment they're comfortable in, so they're more likely to talk to it. As they get older and maybe use contraception regularly, then they can go to their GP, they're more comfortable with that. But I think it's about that flexibility of not waiting for young people to come to you, but actually going to where the young people are.
Our massive drop in teenage pregnancy is, I think, our biggest marker that we are doing it right. We are now one of the biggest drops in the country. All our STI rates have dropped. And our attendances in the clinics around and about Hull as well, they've risen. So it's about getting the information out there, and the proof is that young people are accessing that and changes are being seen in statistics.
Well done, well done. Right, well done you all, that was really, really good. Thank you.
Hull is just one example of good practice in RSE. Other local authorities and other providers have independently come up with approaches that are successful in their contexts. It just goes to show what can be achieved with high quality providers and strong partnerships.
Relationships and sex education is regarded as vital to improving young people's sexual health. But a third of schools in England lack good RSE. Perhaps it's no wonder alternative resources are so popular. In spite of all the advice that pupils can find online, our studies showed that when correctly delivered, school-based or school-linked services can be effective at improving sexual health, especially when developed with input from experts and the young people themselves. This is why the United Kingdom government is making relationships and sex education mandatory in all secondary schools from September 2020. Our best practice criteria can be used to evaluate existing programmes and contribute to the development of new programmes that incorporate statutory RSE and, most importantly, deliver unbiased information that pupils want to hear.